don't give up, right? There's no reason to, because why? I never understood that. Like, even when my mom and wife were yelling at me, like, oh, you should quit. Just go do something else. You can do all this other stuff. Yeah, I can do whatever I want to do. Like, literally, I think that.
All right, well, that is it. So I'm in your town. So, but thank you for coming to me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
No, I appreciate you coming to my hotel and making this happen. This is the background of what most of my interviews look like, apparently.
I was very excited. Originally, I thought we could go to the school and have the wrestling rings in the background because I thought it would be a little different type of scenery, but this is just as good.
I get this is what people are used to, I guess. Although, if I was in a wrestling school, I would want to take a few bumps.
We can make that happen.
I've taken bumps before. I trained actually a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Okay.
But every time I get near a wrestling ring, I'm like, I think I gotta take a couple.
Yeah, well, we have 4 different rings, and they all bump differently.
Oh,
so
I'll take your softest one.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one that I bump in. So
I'm not sure to call you Mike, QT. I mean, what do most people refer to you as?
Most people refer to me as QT, but Mike is kind of what I like. So Mike would be best.
Okay.
But there's so many Mikes in the world, and QT. Like, originally, we were told, like, oh, get away from QT. Like, that was when you were younger. Your name's Mike. You're Mike. I was like, okay, cool. And then as soon as we started filming Road 2, it was like, QT. And now it's back.
But on Being the Elite, it was a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm a man of many names. I wear many hats and have many names, and it's easier to get through that way.
And you're even wearing a hat right now.
It's true. This is so this hat was given to me when we first got our package for working with AEW, and it's for some reason the only hat that I like to wear. And I wear it to the gym. I wear it everywhere. My wife washes it at least twice a week, and so I don't know. It's just certain hats fit well, and this is one of them.
And a lot of people are seeing these hoodies around. I mean,
yeah, apparently. They don't give these out anymore because a lot of the talent are asking for these, and they have to purchase them. So This is actually my second one. I lost one.
Or it got stolen, I bet.
Yeah, it might have got stolen, but I purchased it. So I understand how they feel. But we do get a discount. I mean, we have an employee discount, so it's okay.
Oh, well, that's solid then.
It's not terrible.
But so for the longest time in the Indies, you were QT Marshall.
That's right, yeah.
But in AEW, the announcer's been calling you QT Marshall.
Yeah, kind of because I didn't care. So, Excalibur said it at the Fyter Fest, and I was like, you know what? I don't really care. It's not that big of a deal to me. Apparently, it's a huge deal to everybody else.
It's your name.
So, I know, but it's spelled Marshall, and Marshall was when I was younger, I just needed something to make me stand out from the rest of the other wrestlers. And I used to go in the ring and explain to the ring announcer, if you call me Marshall again, I'm going to go home. And, of course, the whole place would chant Marshall. Which
it's great heat.
It's great heat, and they remembered me. And that was my whole thing was okay, I have to be different. I have to stand out. And that was cheap heat without having to say, oh, you're ugly, you're fat, you're this, you're that, or talk bad about the town. It was always about me. And that was something that I was taught at my wrestling training. Make it about you, or your opponent.
Yeah.
But if you can make it about you, make it about you. I mean, I wrestled Road Dogg once, and I had him in a chin lock, and he was literally clapping and chanting Marshall, to get the crowd into it. It was one of those shows, so it was highly entertaining. I remember thinking, this is absurd. They're chanting my name, and I have him in the hold. So
that's why he's a pro, though.
Yeah, 100%. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are obviously familiar with seeing you, wrestling in AEW, but you also work behind the scenes as well.
Yeah. Actually, I was never supposed to work in the ring, I don't think. I was just hired. I was given the opportunity through Cody as kind of being his assistant. And
what's your official title?
I'm an associate producer.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know what that means. I just know what my job duties are, I guess. My responsibilities, but it originally started with just helping Cody and whatever he could do as an EVP. I'm sure there's so many things that I know how busy I was in the beginning, so I can only imagine what he had to do. So, I was just there to help him out. And then as we started actually to do things I think it was the ticket press conference, the rally out in Vegas.
Yeah, right.
Everyone needed music and they all needed releases and just all this stuff that, could have slipped through the cracks if he didn't tell me, like, hey, we need all this stuff. And then I had to figure out who to get it from and all this other stuff. And it worked out. And then I kind of realized, like, oh, there's probably a lot of stuff that we're not realizing that needs to be done. Like, let's sit down, let's go over that, and let's talk about it. And then at that time, I was also part-time. So I was still running the training facility for myself. But this was like a part-time thing. And it was like, hey, hopefully this can turn into something bigger. Hopefully it could become better. And
well, you've proved yourself.
yeah, I was given the ball and I didn't fumble. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't fumble. I
But
probably
if you
fumbled.
You picked it back up.
I picked it right back up before anyone else can grab it. And I don't know if it's because no one else was on the field at the time, but I was able to pick it back up and continue running. So
The interview that I did with Cody in May, right before Double or Nothing, he actually dropped your name in the interview. And he's like, my assistant, he's going to kill me if he knows that I called him that in this interview. But Michael Kalari, right?
yeah, Kalari.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know if it was Kulari or.
Yeah, it's a weird. So there's an E in there that they put when my ancestors came through Ellis Island. It's not supposed to be there. My dad will not spell it with the E, even though legally it's a weird.
Look,
it's a weird deal.
You
Just
want to talk about hard to pronounce
Kalari.
last names? I mean,
yeah.
Here we go.
CVV. That's all I need to know.
That's all. You need
yeah,
to know.
much easier.
So when did you go from part-time to being full-time?
April. So
okay.
yeah, so it was a 3-month.
Right before Double or Nothing.
Yeah, it was a 3-month deal that they offered me, and it was kind of like a developmental contract, we'll say. And and then they realized, okay, they sat me down. They said, hey, is this something you'd want to do full time? And what else would you like to do besides just being an assistant to the EVPs?
Yeah.
And I had all these ideas in my head, and I think I said, like, if the EVPs are like the Vince McMahons, I'm a big podcast guy. Not anymore, but because I'm too busy now. But I was a huge podcast guy, and I was like, well, if you guys are all like the Vince McMahon, I want to be like the Bruce Pritchard. I want to be like the right-hand man that basically, if you guys are really busy, I just want to do everything.
Yeah.
And if it's too much, which it most of the time is, I'll ask for help. And there's so many people that I've met over the years that come to shows and this, that, and the other that I know that I can trust and count on. Plus, I have like 40, 50 students now that, at the drop of a hat, I mean, they'll go anywhere for me, and because they know that one hand washes the other. And
yeah.
I think I've proved that to them by putting myself out there and helping out a lot of people, and now in return, I'm being helped out greatly.
Well, this is the greatest thing that I think people can take away from this in any aspect of life, wrestling or any other sort of job. Make yourself irreplaceable.
100%. 100%. I do feel that, of course, you always have to remain humble with that because, no one's bigger than the place that they work. But
sure,
if you show that you are somebody that can be counted on, can be trusted, and you're good at the actual job, right? At the end of the day, as long as the job gets done and you do it the right way and you're not stepping on people to do it and all that other stuff, then you are valuable.
Well, it just comes to a point where it's like, who can do that? QT can do that.
Right. Yeah. I kind of, and then if I can't do it, I just don't tell anybody, and then I figure it out.
That's fake it till you make it.
That's it. That's what we do, and like I said, it's worked so far, and hopefully they don't ask me to do anything that I really can't do too well. But like I said, I've been around the wrestling business since 2004 in the actual business, and then before that, my mom was good friends with Dangerous Dawn Marie, so we kind of had a little bit of knowledge before. So just it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do, and the only thing I've ever really studied. And I tell everybody this, like, I'm not good at anything else, right? Like, I can draw a little bit, I can cook because I used to work in restaurants, but wrestling is the only thing I'm good at. So let me have it, let me have this.
It's been such an interesting journey though for you. Like, and I watched your documentary last night.
Okay.
The Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. And it's like, you wanted this so bad. Like, the documentary takes place, 4-ish years ago?
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah, okay, so 4 or 5 years ago. And this was when you were leading up to a tryout with WWE.
Yeah. So a buddy of mine's, his little brother, wanted to do a documentary about being a wrestler. He came to one of our shows at the Monster Factory, realized right away he didn't want to physically do it. So I told him, hey, well, whatever you need to do. He said, well, can I follow you? I said, yeah, sure. So we filmed stuff in Florida at my house that didn't even make the film, because during the film, as he was filming, I was working for Snap-on Tools, which nobody believes, but I was working for Snap-on Tools, which is, my stepfather had owned 3 routes. So I was helping him out.
You were like driving the truck.
I was driving the truck, selling tools. I have never used a tool in my life besides a normal screwdriver. So here I am selling tools and like on pace to become Rookie of the Year in the Northeast District, just because people liked me because I was a wrestler. So like I brought something else to the table besides just, shady salesman. Plus, I really didn't. I mean, my stepfather will kill me if he hears this, but like, I knew what the bottom line price was, so I was willing to just like, hey, this is the lowest I can go. I don't like to BS with anyone. I don't like to carny anybody. It's like, hey, the screwdrivers are $100, like, and I can get to 80 without getting in trouble. You want them or not? So, but because of that, I sold a lot of tools. So, anyway, during that time period, I did some extra work with WWE. And they offered me a tryout down at the Performance Center, and it was supposed to happen in September. So we went to do the extra work in May. That was supposed to be in September. In the meantime, they decided to not give me the tryout. Whatever the reason was, the movie has some stuff about that, but it's all jumbled. It was the greatest thing that never happened to me, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of... I know The Rock talked about that when not making the NFL was the greatest thing that never happened to him.
Yeah.
This was the greatest thing that never happened to me. And one, because I had a broken neck and I didn't tell anybody that. And that's not even in the movie, just because like I got it fixed and I didn't care about it other than that. But there's no way I would have done well at that tryout, because when we did when Danny Cage brought in Gerald Briscoe, like they were making us do stuff there. And I was like, I can't even do a push-up. Like my right arm doesn't work.
Because of your neck problems?
Because of my neck problems.
Wow.
And I didn't know that it was a broken neck. I just thought like, I thought I tore my rotator cuff. So I was still wrestling. And then I was watching a documentary, Chris Van Vliet documentary. And he was talking about like Mr. Wonderful's arm kind of deteriorating, atrophy. So I made my wife measure my arm, and sure enough, it was 1.5 inches smaller.
Wow.
So literally right away I called it, I got it health insurance, called a doctor, set up a surgery, and when I got there, he said, so, how long haven't you been wrestling? I said, man, I got a match Saturday, and I did. I had a match at the ECW arena for Ring of Honor, and I was like, you know what? This will be my last match. I'll be okay with it. Like, it'll be cool. I was supposed to wrestle Punishment Martinez, who's Damian Priest. But Delirious knew that I was going to go crazy because it was my last match. So instead, he put us as a team. So it was still cool, and it ended up not being my last match. So that kind of worked out. But yeah, I had the surgery, and then so that was the end of that. We didn't really go into that in the movie, but yeah, then the movie just took off. Like this kid put it in every film festival he could. Yeah. Then he called me one day, hey, can you come out to San Diego for Comic-Con? I was like, no, I'm not a comic person. So I wanted to just see the wrestling figures. I was like, oh, that'll be cool. I'll go see that. Everyone's dressed as Rick and Morty, all this stuff. So I went out there, and then they screened the film. Like 35 people showed up, right? And then the next day we went back for the results. And I remember sitting there thinking like, okay, how am I going to act like I thought that I was really going to have a chance of winning, right? Like, because I look at it like on a realistic standpoint. Like, I know the real story, which is what the film was. But at the end of the day, like, I didn't think about it in the way that the judges thought about it. The judges, who are actors, actresses.
Yeah, they're watching it as a film.
They're watching it as a film, and they're watching it as, like, the story. And the story was not a wrestling story. It was a story about a guy who was going after his dream. Yeah. And there's some ups and downs, and everybody that has ever tried to accomplish anything probably has been there before. And I know there's like this one scene with, Cody always rips me apart for it because my wife is the nicest woman you'll ever meet. But there is a moment where they pulled the tryout from me, and her and my mother teamed up on me and just berated me. And at the time, like, I didn't even think twice about it. I was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'll still work. I'll still wrestle on the side. I'll be okay. But the people that watch that movie are like, damn, they were really rough on you, you know?
I like the part where you're like, well, I could go work for Ring of Honor and they'll pay like $30,000.
Yeah. So in 2015, that's what they were paying.
Yeah.
I mean, now, you know, now they realize like they can't get away with that.
Well, they got to compete.
So they have to compete. And, but yeah, I remember thinking like, okay, I can make, you know, 75,000 selling tools, another 30, that puts me at six figures. I'll be happy, right? I just wanted to wrestle. And I always thought like, okay, if I have to do something else to supplement this dream, I'm willing to do it, because what else am I going to do? If we're only wrestling on the weekends anyway, I'm not going to sit home all week.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of awkward. So,
was that moment the moment where you went, maybe I can't be a wrestler? Maybe I can't live my dream.
So it hit me at one point, like I wasn't going to work for WWE, right? That was like, okay, I'll probably never work for WWE. And then I was working at a restaurant. I was running a restaurant, and I was making really good money and easy money. And then I was like, yeah, I just can't do this anymore. And I told my wife, like, hey, I have family in Georgia, and they have like multiple houses, and they're willing to like basically let us buy a house from them. No down payment. We just got married.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what I'm going to do, but maybe we'll just move down there. There's acting down there. There's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But I always knew wrestling. I wanted to do wrestling. And then I said, well, Atlanta is a very centralized location. I can drive to any show. It's 10 hours.
Sure.
And I never did that living in New Jersey. Like, I wouldn't drive 3 hours to go to a wrestling show. So I was going to go the complete opposite route. Like, I was going to go all in on it. And I was like, let's see what happens. And then I contacted Kevin Kelly, who was with Ring of Honor at the time. And he said, well, why don't you just come to our show and sit at center stage, and you can just sit backstage, and we'll give you, like, we'll let you do commentary, and we'll see what happens.
Right.
And then, so I said, yeah, can I come to the production meeting? He said, sure, come sit down. And then I started paying attention. And then I said, man, I did an indie show down here. It was not good. And I mean, I was good, but the wrestling itself wasn't that great. And I remember thinking, like, I could open a school. So then I called Danny Cage from the Monster Factory. I said, maybe we should open up a Monster Factory down here. And then I didn't want a boss either, right? So, like, to use his name, I have to do what he likes to do. And,
Sure.
you know, we're great friends, but we kind of think a little bit differently. Like, he's very structured. I'm not. It's your dream, right? Like, if you wanted to be a wrestler, I'd be like, hey, yeah, come to my school. This is what we do here. If you don't show up, it's on you. Like,
right, yeah.
He's the opposite, right? You have to go, and that's why his students succeed. And I'm not saying none of mine are going to, but I'm also not going to force them, right? Because they have to learn. Like, no one's going to be there to push them when they go to WWE or AEW or Ring of Honor or whatever it is. So I opened the school, and one thing led to another, and then I kind of realized, like, okay, this might be as good as it gets, like Women of Honor commentary and running a wrestling school. But while I run the school, I'll start running my own shows. And maybe I won't be a wrestler for these companies, but I could be a wrestler for my company.
Right.
And I can teach these guys how to get better and, you know, kind of have my own little, like, performance center and my own little company. So, and hopefully become a feeder system to somebody else. And I remember thinking, like, if I open my own school, I'm going to become the best coach that I could be, to the point where someone's going to offer me a job, and then I'm going to tell them no.
Yeah.
You know, that was in my head. Like, the WWE's going to call me and offer me a job, and I'm going to say no to them, right. You know? So.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that you see young wrestlers making right now?
Couple things. One, because of social media, a lot of them are trying to be the flash in the pan, which is good. Of course, it gets you attention. The problem is, when you get that attention, you have to be able to back it up. And that's why, like, at our facility, we really stress the fundamentals, stuff like that, because the fundamentals will never go away. And
you mean like bumping, running the ropes, like
running the ropes,
simple
timing, just
okay.
All the stuff that you need to do over and over again. And it doesn't have to be at a wrestling school. It can just be working. Unfortunately, most of the time you can't work 5 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one of the things that I see a lot of guys and girls, they want to get the Twitter fans going crazy, and it's like, yeah, that's great, but then when you have to have a 10-minute match, what are you going to do? You know, then you get exposed, and then, you know, and I feel bad too, because then you get some people that, like, have been their heads get blown up a little bit, and it's not their fault. They're young, or they're young to the business too. And then someone sits them down and kind of explains to them why they're not succeeding or why they're not as good as they think they are. And it's kind of like they're going backwards now. And you know, we always say like the ride up is fun, but the ride down is not. And I've been on the ride down, and now I'm kind of coming back up. So I've seen it all. So, but yeah, that's one that I would think that's the one mistake. And then the other one is too, not realizing that it can be done, right? And that's something that I've learned over the years. Like, it might not be you, it might not be me, but somebody's gonna do it.
Yeah. Why
not us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I never thought that way. Now I think that way all the time. Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, well, I wanted to be an astronaut. Okay, then do it. Like, you can do that. Well, I can't. Yeah, you can.
I've always said if someone else is doing the thing you want to do, that just means there's a path that you can do it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the thing that amazes me, and I'm obviously not as involved in the wrestling world as you are, but there's these guys that want to be wrestlers and then don't work out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's always been an issue for me, right? Like, not working out, but dieting. So,
but you still have a big build.
Yeah, I think I've just been fortunate that, you know, I used to eat everyone's food at the table. You know what I mean? But now I'm trying to lean out, and then like I'll go through phases, and I'm the worst kind of person there is when it comes to that. Like, I'm a light at the end of the tunnel kind of guy. So it's like, oh, they booked me in a match in 3 weeks. Okay, don't eat for 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
You need the goal.
Right, I need the goal. Whereas the goal was there the whole time. And that's what I preach to everyone else. Like, the goal is there, you know? And my wife is a nutritionist. She's Cody's nutritionist. So, but she also enjoys when I get to eat ice cream. So, you know, she doesn't really help me out in that aspect. But she also, you know, she is on top of me now about it, because she knows, like, oh, hey, you're not really fitting in your trunks, you know? But I think for me, the charm is the fact that I'm not, you know, completely shredded, and then I'm out there doing the stuff that I'm doing. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I would have never thought he could do that, you know? And I kind of like that, you know? I guess because it sets the bar low. I don't know if that's you know, if that's a good thing or not, but, you know.
But maybe it makes people go, hey, I'm kind of built like QT.
Sure.
I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone said something about like a dad core, I think they were calling me. So, and I'm okay with that. Like,
make that a shirt.
Because honestly, at the end of the day, like, if that's how I'm going to connect with the audience, because I think that's what I was always missing. And I remember when I got put in one of the matches, the first match in AEW, I remember telling Cody, like, hey, can we tell my story on Dark? Can we do and then he came up with this whole show, and he put Aubrey on it, he put me on it, Justin Rock, all these guys and girls, and it let people connect with me, right? Because I didn't want to go out there and just take random bumps.
Yeah.
Like, I love wrestling. It's great. But to go out there and get no reaction is the worst thing in the world. And the reason people get no reactions, I believe, is because they're not connecting with the audience. So the only reaction you could possibly get is by doing a cool move. Well, in AEW, a lot of guys do really cool moves. So for me to go out there and try to replicate what they're doing, like, I can't do what Jack Evans does, right? But I can do what I do.
Yeah.
And if the people care about me in any way, shape, or form, it'll help me out.
Yeah.
I just need a head start. You know what I mean? So, and it kind of worked out, I guess. You know.
Well,
so.
you've been working a lot more matches. You said than you expected.
Yeah.
Are we going to be seeing more from you in 2020?
I hope so. You know, doing that match with Cody, teaming with Cody, and then I guess, you know, I came in the back and like, you're trending, and you know, and I'm as humble as I can be, but, you know, at the end of the day, too, like, I went in the locker room afterwards with my wife, and we had a moment where it was like, it was special because it's something I have worked really hard for.
Yeah.
I did get a lot of help, right? So I feel like, you know, we cheated a little bit. You know, I was in the ring teaming with Cody, also teaming as the guy that isn't really that great. So when I do a couple little things, it took everyone by surprise.
Yeah.
So, but if that's the narrative that we're telling, I'm okay with that, right? Because at the end of the day, like, we're entertaining people. That's what we're doing.
But you are great in the ring.
I mean, I'm fundamentally sound. That's the way I look at it. I'm very fundamentally sound. I have
your
timing.
punches are so good.
Yeah, my punches, you know, all the stuff I can do well. And here's the other thing I've learned over the years. If you don't do it well, just don't do it, right? Like
That's
if I'm a pitcher
great.
and I don't throw a good curveball, I'm not throwing a curveball. And that's one of the things, if going back to your other question, sometimes I think people do a lot of things that they're not great at. And in wrestling, we get to choose what we do.
Yeah.
So just do the stuff that you're great at, and then people will think that you're pretty good, you know?
I was surprised in the documentary when you mentioned that you speak 3 languages.
Yeah. So, okay. I haven't spoken Portuguese or Spanish in a long time, except yesterday when we got off the ship, Cody, myself, and my wife, we went to get in a cab.
Yes.
And the guy was like, hey, going to the airport, whatever. And he had a shuttle. And so finally we went over there. And then I realized like right away that they were going to put us on with like a bunch of people. And not that I mind or my wife minds or even Cody minds, but there's no reason to if we can all just share a cab or an Uber, right? And or a Lyft. And so then all of a sudden I went over to the gentleman, and in Spanish I told him like, hey, is this going to be just us?
Say it in Spanish.
So I went over to him and I said, Señor, por favor, solamente 3 personas. And he's like, no, 10. I was like, no, solamente 3 porque mi amigo es famoso, right? Like my friend is famous.
My friend is famous.
Not me, but my friend is very famous. Like that's why security brought us off the ship. So then Cody just kind of looked at me, and I was like, yeah, because the big ongoing joke is that I don't speak other languages, right? So Brandy's always like, you don't really speak Spanish, and I don't, but I learned in the restaurant industry and working for Disney, if you don't speak Spanish, if you don't speak Portuguese, you're not getting tipped, because not that, it's just not their culture. But if you give them excellent service and then you just tell them in their language as well that the gratuity is not included, they just ask you like, oh, well, how much is like your custom, and then you tell them 18%. They're like, yeah, no problem. Like, it's not that they don't want to tip you. They just don't know.
Yeah.
But if you don't speak to them in their language, then at the end you just have a translator come over to tell them that the tip's not included, which a lot of people used to do to me. Hey, Mike, can you come over there and tell them the tip's not included? I'm like, no, dude. Like, I watched you literally watch them close their menu, and then all you did was take an order. You didn't serve them, So, and that was one of my, okay, well, I can get a job that way. And then the WWE told me, well, you're not Portuguese. You're right. I forgot this was 100% real,
I lived in Miami for 5 years, so I can relate to your cab driver story.
Yeah.
Or like I would get into an Uber leaving the airport, and like your Uber driver would never speak English.
Sure.
And I would just be like, I'm sorry, I'm there.
Yeah.
I don't speak any Spanish.
No. Okay.
I need to ride with you apparently.
Yeah. Like I said, I speak enough to get by. That's what I tell everyone. Like, if I wrestled in Puerto Rico before, so if you drop me off in Mexico or you drop me off in Puerto Rico or any Spanish-speaking country, I can get by. I can eat. I can, I can do everyday things.
Would you call the match in Spanish?
So, funny story. The WWE had brought in one of Alberto Del Rio's friends. And at the time, we were extras. And William Regal used to do like this 4-hour speech, basically telling everyone like what they expect, and then the next day you would have your match.
Right.
Well, he knew I spoke Spanish. He made me translate to the dude. And then I was like, oh, this will be okay, though, because I'll wrestle him the next day, and it'll really get me over with them, right? Like, again, what can I do to help out and make myself more valuable? So sure enough, Ricardo Rodriguez was there. So he worked with him the next day. And one of the things that they always told you was like, don't dive to the outside, don't go off the top rope, like all these rules for safety. And literally the first thing the guy did was like drop kick, dive over the top rope, throw him in 450 off the top. And I was just like, William Regal just looked at me. I was like, I swear I told him not to do that, So, and it was cool. Like the one time I was talking to, what was his name? El Torito?
Okay, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I was speaking to him about his new boots before a pay-per-view, and one of the guys from WWE came up behind me and was like, "Hey, were you talking to him?" And they're like, "You speak Spanish?" I was like, "Ah, a little bit." They're like, "I just watched you have a full conversation with that guy. Like, you should let people know that you also speak these languages." But I was like, yeah, I'll let someone know. And then, of course, I didn't let anyone know, I was like, well, I thought he was going to say something for me,
I've heard this rule in the WWE tryouts that they don't want you to do anything off the top rope or dive. And you say it's for safety. I thought it was like, what can you actually do in the ring?
So part of it is that, but the other part is safety, too, because they do also say, like, no DDT bumps, like no head bumps, stuff like that. But I think a lot of it is too, can you work? Do you have, I mean, you could tell right out the gate usually if someone has proper footwork or not.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're not going to be a great performer though.
Yeah.
Right? Because owning this facility now, I've had guys come in and try to like show me what they can do, and I look at them and I think like, oh, this is going to be rough. And then like they do a fundamental drill and it's rough. And then I make them do a match later. I'm like, man, I was so entertained. Like, if only you could do the fundamentals too. You know what I mean?
Well, you could teach that.
Right. Well, that's the whole idea, is that I try to let them know, like, hey, if you want it, like, you don't have to train with me, but you should go train. You know, wrestling is one of those things that I don't understand why we just show up for the games. You know, like NFL, MLB, they all train.
Yes.
You know, and then they play the game. Like wrestling is like, well, I'm not going to train. I'm just going to show up on Saturdays to do my one show a week. And it's just like, well, okay, you could do that, but you should do the other stuff. That doesn't mean you have to bump 100 times a day and take crazy moves, but just get in there, roll around, you know, come up with ideas. Like, I don't know. I think if you don't go all in on it, it's kind of hard to make it your life if, you know, you don't want to make it your life, if that makes sense.
And just the more reps you get, the much further along
you'll be.
it's
like anything. It's like anything.
You know, if you want to believe in the 10,000 hour rule that Malcolm Gladwell talks about, like you'll get closer to your 10,000 hours by spending time doing whatever it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. I believe that. Yeah, I believe I've spent more than 10,000 hours involved in wrestling.
Oh, for sure. And look where it's got you.
And yeah, we've made it, you know, at least for now.
What's been the biggest change that you've seen from when AEW was announced almost exactly a year ago to where we sit here right now?
In the industry
just
just in general?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, people are very excited, right? And they're excited about everything. And competition is always great. And you know, I know we're competing with NXT, right? As soon as we announce our show, we're going to go live and we're going to do 2 hours, and cool, that's great. You know, I mean, especially like Punish Martinez, a great friend of mine. We started together. So to know that he's on the opposite channel, maybe while I'm out there, you know what I mean? It's got like a little friendly competition. And of course, as long as everyone gets to succeed a little bit, right? Because I think there is enough, you know, with the NWA, with what we're doing with NXT, with, you know, whatever company it is, New Japan coming here now. Like, there's enough for wrestling fans love wrestling.
Yeah.
So if you give them great wrestling 5 nights a week, most of them are going to try to make it 5 nights a week. And if they can't, they're going to come 4 nights a week. So, you know, I'm a wrestling fan. I watch every type of wrestling. It could be the worst wrestling, the best wrestling. It doesn't matter. I love wrestling, you know? So,
who was it that you loved growing up?
Shawn Michaels. Without a doubt, Shawn Michaels.
Everyone that sits in that seat either says Bret or Shawn
Michaels. So my brother loved Bret Hart. I loved Shawn Michaels until The Rock. Then I was just it was The Rock 100%. But from a wrestling standpoint, in-ring performance, everything, it's got to be Shawn Michaels. I think he's just one of the best. I mean, the other night on the cruise, you know, shoot reverse, and then I flipped up the turnbuckle and came back. And, you know, for a bigger guy, it's, you know, but it's because not a lot of guys can do it like he does, or he did it, you know, a lot of guys. So I was like, hey, let me do that. And, you know, the guy I was working with, you really want to do that? I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do it. Are you kidding me? Because when I do it, it looks like you're killing me. And that's what I want, you know.
Yeah.
I want people to feel bad when I hit that turnbuckle like that. So, yeah, we were told when we first started, take 5 of your favorite wrestlers, put them together, take a little bit from each, and that'll create you.
I like that.
Yeah, that was what I was taught. And
so who are the 5?
So, like, my punches are from Razor Ramon, okay? Just my all-around work, I would say, is Shawn Michaels. I took a little bit from Mr. Perfect, some from Triple H as well, and then Randy Orton. Those are my 5.
Pretty good 5.
Yeah,
right
those
there.
are a pretty good 5. And then every now and then I'll steal stuff from, you know, from matches that I watch. Like, because realistically, I truly believe that I could take a match that Shawn Michaels did with this person and kind of do the same thing and just change the moves, right? Because if the psychology works, it works. You know, it doesn't matter what move they do. It just matters where they put it and how they react and all that stuff. So,
did you know Cody before you got this job working with him?
So I met Cody in Ring of Honor, but in 2011, I was actually an extra with Cody on a pay-per-view. I had to bring out it It was when he was bagging the people's heads.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so for Extreme Rules 2011, I was...
Everyone can go look this up now.
Yeah, I post pictures of it before, and so that's where I actually met him.
So you were friendly with him?
Yeah, and he was, the first show here at Center Stage, he asked me to let Brandy in the back, and I was like, all right, well, I don't know. He's like, yeah, here's her number, and I'm thinking, like, you don't know me from a hole in the wall, but hey, I'm glad. But I was wearing a suit. And that's the biggest thing. I was wearing a suit and holding papers. And I've learned if you just go backstage and you wear a suit and you have a rolled up bunch of papers, people think you're important. And they don't think you're an extra. They actually, and you just, make it look like you know what you're doing. And, he came to me and said, hey, can you help me out here? And then a couple other shows, he had asked me, hey, do you have any of your students here? I need 2 butlers for this in-ring segment with Dalton Castle. Sure. And what do you need? Oh, I need a tray of hors d'oeuvres or whatever. Like, hey, guys, here's money. Go to Publix. Go do all this stuff. Like, I just wanted to help.
Yeah.
And I never no one thought that AEW was going to happen. So, when I told him, like, hey, man, I'm just willing to help out. Like, it was just cool to help out and know that, like, it was being appreciated. And at the time, too, Brandy needed a place to train. So, she came by this facility, and I told her, like, hey, if you really, like, want to train more, like, you can come once a week. Like, I'll meet you here, and we'll get your training going and stuff like that. And
you're the school to go to in the Atlanta area.
So, yeah, I mean, there are other facilities around, and I do think that we've kind of helped the training all around get better.
Yeah.
Because, you either have to step up or step out, right? And that wasn't my goal. Like, when I first moved here, I actually contacted a bunch of the other training places and tried to work deals with everybody because I know what kind of business this is.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be friends with everyone but then I said, you know what? Like, they didn't want to do it. I said, I'm just going to put my head down, keep moving forward, because if I'm looking left, I'm looking right, I'm not looking ahead. And that's the only way you can, succeed is if you pay attention to what's ahead of you, So, yeah, I tell everybody when they get to the school, there's 4 things we guarantee. You're going to be trained the right way. You're going to learn how to eat the right way. You're going to work out with us the right way, and you'll learn how to cut a promo. Anything else is a bonus. AEW, WWE, ROH, that's all because you've worked hard. Again, I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm carnying them. Cody jokes about it all the time. He thinks I give him like an AEW T-shirt. They all take a picture with Cody. It's like it's a whole thing, but it's not. And I make sure on the paperwork that it says that they're not guaranteed anything but proper training. So,
what about within AEW? What kind of changes have you seen since it started?
I think people have gotten more of an understanding that this is real, right? Because in the beginning, it was like, oh, okay, well, of course they sold out their first show. Of course they sold out their second show. Oh, man, they're drawing pretty good crowds in these big arenas. Like,
yeah,
man, they're beating NXT in ratings. Like, we're beating NXT in ratings. Man, this is real. Like, we really got to – now I have had guys and girls come up to me and, hey, who's my coach, right? Like, who's my coach for the match? Where before they would, like, try to – kind of have ideas for themselves before going to the guys that we pay great money to let them coach. You know what I mean? It's like, Billy Gunn and Dean Malenko and,
CD.
Jerry Lynn, CD, right. It's kind of like let them, they know where we need to go. And then you have to keep, stay true to who you are. But, that's what they're here for, and we need them because a lot of guys haven't worked TV before.
Well, I think so many of these guys are used to and girls are used to working their indie matches and calling it themselves.
Yeah, calling it themselves and, 25-minute matches where everyone shakes hands at the end. And it's easier to get over that way, right? It's a lot harder to get over in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a 6-minute match, cold match, no story. Go make it happen, and on top of that, like, this match is all CVV. It's not QT. Well, you can't tell me that because that's an awkward conversation. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to do this interview, but I'm going to just say everything. You don't get to say anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, well, then I don't want to do the interview, and that's how most people in wrestling. Like, well, then I don't want to do that match,
Yeah.
Whereas if it's explained to them the right way, like, hey, this is where we're going right now, but yada, 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 like me. Like, hey, you're going to be in this match with Orange Cassidy and Best Friends and team with the Beaver Boys. And I remember thinking, like, oh, really? My first ever TV match is going to be a 2-minute, 3-minute Rick and Morty squash. And then I was like, you know what? I know Orange Cassidy. I know these guys, and I know what they do. And how about we make it a moment? And why don't I be the one in the ring doing the stuff with Orange and getting millions of views? You know what I mean? And if nothing else, at least I got millions of views. So, but it's worked out,
Orange Cassidy is so over.
Yeah, it's unreal. It is unreal. I want to say I don't get it, but I do get it. It's just, I know no one else gets it, right? And they don't have to get it. It's like when, Cody made me go watch Star Wars one night, and I've never seen Star Wars before, and fans, please don't hate me for it.
The most recent one?
The most recent one.
Okay.
And
I feel like that's not a good place to start.
No, well, he did make me watch the originals.
Oh, wow.
And I did watch them when I was younger, but I didn't really care because I was probably thinking about baseball or wrestling. And so we went to watch this new one, and it's just one of those things, I don't get everything, right? And I don't get the allure of all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm not a Star Wars fan, so it's okay, right? It's okay if you don't love what you're seeing. That doesn't mean, that no one's forcing you to watch it, right?
Yeah.
He kind of forced me to watch it, but he did because he wanted me to understand the story. And, we had a good time. We all went out together. It wasn't like he just made me go there by myself and watch the movie. But, Orange Cassidy, some of the things in AEW, some of the things in NXT, WWE, Ring of Honor, you don't have to like everything. And that's what's great about pro wrestling is, you find what you like, you really watch what you like, and that's why a lot of people DVR stuff. I know there's certain things. I don't even like watching full-on pay-per-views because I know there's certain things I just probably don't want to sit through, and it's easier to just fast forward.
Lots of flavors of ice cream.
Of course. Yeah, and even vanilla still works, That's why I try to explain to everybody,
So if you're saying you don't want to look right or look left, you want to look straight ahead, what are you looking straight ahead to right now?
So I would love to regularly wrestle, right? Everyone always says oh, well, I want to be a world champion. Of course, 100,000%. I would love to be a world champion one day. That takes a lot of work. And the one thing I always told everyone at AEW is that if I have this other job, I don't want the in-ring work to affect this other job. So it's just in 2020 is about getting more opportunities little by little, but still balancing out this job that I have, which I think is more valuable to the company. Right? Personally, I would love to wrestle all the time and not worry about anything else. But for the company, for my professional life, I think this is more important,
for
right?
Sure.
So, and there's more longevity here as well. And that's what everyone keeps telling me, JR and Tony Schiavone. There's more longevity here. Yeah, I get that, guys, but, I want to be out there, And so it's just about finding that balance. I think that's what 2020 for me is all about, and I'm still we just structured a wrestling contract for me, so where I can still do some independent shows and stuff like that. And I think there's stuff that I never got to do that I'd like to do, and now that I have the backing of being on TV and having that behind me now, I guess it'll be easier to get those opportunities maybe, or I have a little more pull,
For sure.
And I can pick and choose what shows I want to do and stuff like that and who I want to work with. And so I'll never publicly put a list out there, but, of course there are some guys and girls that, I'd like to work with or at least be on shows with because I think maybe they bring stuff to the table for our company that we might never get a chance to give them those opportunities. But if I can get on a show with them and work with somebody like throw out your favorite independent wrestler because I don't want to say anybody, and then I don't want to say anybody and let them think that they're getting a job.
Matt Cross.
Okay, Matt Cross. If I could work with Matt Cross and then go back and say hey guys, and now they already know who Matt Cross is, but if I go back there and say man, I spoke to him afterwards, and not only did we kill it in the ring, what a guy that guy is. We really need someone like him, and you know what?
Yeah.
Cody, can I book him for this show? Can we figure out a way to get him in the door? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's if I can do stuff like that, that would it helps me out a lot too, because again, I like giving back, and I know a lot of people say that, and originally I didn't, right? 10 years ago, oh man, I wouldn't give back for anybody, right? It was all about me. And then I only got to a certain level, and now it's all about everyone else.
It's funny how something happens when you hit your 30s.
Yeah.
Your 20s is I was the same way. It's all about what's best for me.
Sure.
And then you hit 30 and you're there's more to life than just
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's,
I feel
I hate to
saying
admit it.
that.
I
Me
know.
too.
Yeah.
Wow.
I hate to admit that because I wish it was still all about me, but it's not, and it's, but again, like I said, I've succeeded more by helping others.
Yeah. Tony Robbins says the secret to life is giving. Like,
Okay.
and it's like,
Are you a Tony Robbins guy?
I love Tony Robbins.
Okay. So I'm an E.T., the hip hop preacher
okay,
kind of
great.
guy.
Me too.
Yeah.
I like them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very, so people ask me all the time, like, what do you listen to? I listen to him. I listen to him when I work out. I listen to, there's another gentleman, Inky Thomas. He's a guy from Atlanta, actually, who got, like his right side got paralyzed at the University of Tennessee. And I like it because they have like hip hop beats in the background.
Yeah.
It's not just like somebody talking. There's like cool music and it. My wife, I don't think she's all into it at all, but she's like, "Are you listening to that again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because it's a true story. Like it's something I can relate to."
I botched the Tony Robbins thing. It's the secret to living is giving. So
Okay.
it rhymes. It's supposed to rhyme.
It's supposed to rhyme. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's like a hip hop guy too. Then
And
he just doesn't know it.
I first learned about ET with the if you want to, you need to want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe.
Of course. Yeah, that was the
viral
famous
video.
one. The viral
which is-
video. Yeah.
I get goosebumps. Wow, I get goosebumps
Yeah.
just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, you literally, I think, in anything you want to do, you have to put everything forward and put it there. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, honestly, there's no excuse. Like, it should happen.
Yeah.
If you do it, it'll happen. Like,
And the thing is, even if you don't end up at the exact spot where you thought you'd be, you're going to be further along than if you hadn't tried.
Of course.
Like, if we loop it back around to the start of like the best thing that never happened to you.
Sure.
And now look where you are.
Yeah. I mean, and I have friends that gave up that are contacting me now. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, you fell off the face of the earth and you didn't, like, you left wrestling. You know what I mean? It's not like I left in-ring performing, but I stayed involved in wrestling because at the end of the day, even if I had to go work at Publix and become a manager at Publix, as much as I would have hated that part of my life, I had my wife that I grew up always wanting, and then I had something involved in wrestling.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that. Now, it turned into a lot more than that, and I never want to go back to the other stuff, but at least, like I always tell everyone, at least, don't give up, right? There's no reason to, because why? I never understood that. Like, even when my mom and wife were yelling at me, like, "Oh, you should quit. Just go do something else. You can do all this other stuff." Yeah, I can do whatever I want to do. Like, literally, I think that. Like, and that's very arrogant to think that kind of way, but like, I genuinely believe I could do anything I want to do if I just put my mind to it.
No, that's just how life is.
Sure.
It's possible. And too many people just end up giving up.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think I'd be a great interviewer. I'll be honest with that.
You absolutely could be a great interviewer.
Maybe. Well, we'll have to team up one day for AEW.
Done.
Well, yeah,
We'll
there
make
you
it
go.
happen.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting in the time.
Sure.
Because if you watch my first bunch of interviews, and please don't, by the way, they're not great.
Okay.
And I think that the biggest thing that I learned, and people always comment about this, is I let my guests talk. And I realize that it's not about me. I'm giving someone the time and the platform to tell their story.
Yeah.
And the second I realized that, sure, my name might be on the mics and my name might be on the channel, but no one is coming to this channel to see me.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And the second I realized that, everything changed.
Yeah. Well, you figured it out, so that's good.
And you have as well.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, I think I'm still learning, but yes, I think it's incredible that I get to sit at a round table with, Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone and Dean Malenko and all these guys, and I could see, like, when we first started, they're just looking at me like, who the F is this? You know what I mean?
Right.
And because I'm not the type that keeps my mouth shut either. Like, hey, why are we doing this? Like, we should be doing this, and like, what is this guy saying, and like, hey, QT, kind of chill out, man. Like, or, hey, let them speak. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just get excited. I get excited and I'm passionate about it, And if, again, like I always say, if you hate me because I'm passionate about it, we're never going to see eye to eye, right? But I'll never go behind your back. I'll never, like I say, carny anybody. Like, it's always, if I want something, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to say, hey, how do I get this? Oh, well, that's not in the cards. Okay, well, how do we make it in the cards? Well, it can't be in the cards. Okay, well, don't tell me it can never happen, because it can happen. We just got to figure it out. Like, do I have to do this to get that? Whatever it is, I'm willing to do it. And if I'm not willing to do it, and it's not that important to me.
Yeah.
So
I just want to acknowledge you for not giving up and for
thank
chasing after it, because there's so many people that would have, saw the path in front of them was difficult and went, well, you know what? I'll just take the easy route and just do that. And I think that anyone that's looking to get into the wrestling business as a wrestler or anything else should check out your film, because it's a true story about like how difficult it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not a good time in my life. But again, like I said, it was the greatest thing to never happen to me, because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be wearing this great sweatshirt or this hat.
And hat, yeah.
I wouldn't be, enjoying my life as much as I'm enjoying it now. These past 2 weeks, I've been in Miami and on the Rock and Rager Wrestling at Sea. I've got to wrestle 3 times in front of that audience, which is just awesome, So
where can people find the film?
Amazon.com. I know that because somebody ordered me like 30 copies and I just got them in the mail one day. I think as a rib.
There you go. Okay.
So they're just sitting upstairs in my room.
So does that mean it's also streaming on Prime?
It's streaming on Prime, and it's like super cheap if you stream it. I think like $2.99. I know Jericho streamed it a couple weeks ago, which was cool because
and I just streamed it.
Yeah, so it was cool because then he got to kind of. He's another one who like had no idea like who I was or what I did before this, and why is he? Why am I doing what I'm doing backstage? So that was really cool, and they're Best Buy. I mean, it's kind of like everywhere. BarnesandNoble.com. Right. So I don't know how they do it. Whether you order it from there and then they go to the distributor. I have no idea.
You don't need to know.
I don't need to know. I don't get anything from it. Like this kid gets. Hopefully, it's his dream to become a major director. So it was my way of literally helping him out.
Giving back.
And it turned into, like, I remember him telling me, this is going to be the greatest thing that, for you and your career. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm never going to show anyone this documentary. Sure enough, it became the reason why I'm sitting here.
Wow. Well, congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for, coming to me. I'm glad we were able to make this happen here in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I hope that people take a lot out of this conversation, because you've set the example for hard work can get you anything that you want.
And a little bit of luck. And putting yourself in the right place at the right time.
That's also important.
When you have, how do you say it? I always tell everyone, being in the right place at the right time, but when the opportunity comes, be prepared.
There it is. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
You. Well, there you go, my friend, QT Marshall. Thanks for checking out this chat. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you learned a little bit more about QT than you might have known from just watching him in the ring in Ring of Honor or in AEW. And I think that it just reinforces the fact that you should never give up on your dreams. And even when things don't seem to be going your way, maybe you're just on a different path there. And that quote from The Rock that he said, I know well because The Rock actually said it to me during my interview. You can check out the video. I'll actually link to it at the end of this video. Ironic that I'm wearing a Rock shirt as I'm talking about this now, too. That was not planned, by the way. But the quote is, sometimes in life, things don't happen, and they can be the best things that never happen. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Sometimes you're on a path and you think things are supposed to be going this way, and you get derailed off that path, and you're on another path that leads you to a much better place than you could have possibly even ever imagined on that other path. QT's movie, by the way, is something that's so incredibly inspiring. And if you're looking to get into wrestling, it's a must watch. And if you're just a wrestling fan, it's great to see the highs and the many lows of the life of an independent wrestler. Once again, it's called The Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. So a big thank you to you for watching this. Thank you to QT for taking the time coming to my hotel in Atlanta to do this interview. And we've got many more interviews from Atlanta coming up in just a few days.